Deerhunter's fifth album came out in 2010, Halcyon Digest. It is considered their creative peak. They really started to kind of break through at another level after this album came out. It is by far received their the most critical praise of any of their efforts. From start to finish, I consider it their most accessible album. The songs are all take on a little bit more of a traditional pop structure, and by that I mean just, verse, chorus. I mean, there are some songs that don't. The last song, He Would Have Laughed, was written for Jay Reatard, who was a punk artist out of Memphis, who had died and was a close friend of the band. It's a beautiful, beautiful song. But yeah, I don't really know. Lyrically, a lot of the same kind of themes, pretty dark. A lot of it's kind of about like memory though, and how we kind of mix our memories up, and create our own kind of truths. Deerhunter, I will be honest, is not a band that I really dive into the lyrics on as much as others, but there's some really there are just some stronger, more forward themes on this album, and but anyway, just a really good album. The song that I'm going to play from it is my favorite Deerhunter song. It's called Revival, and yeah, we'll take a listen to that now. Deerhunter's sixth album came out in 2013, Monomania. This one, when it first came out, was well received by everybody, critics and fans alike. And then I think as time went on, it started to become a little bit more of a divisive album among fans. I have a friend who says that Deerhunter is his favorite band, and he considers this their most challenging album, and I struggle with that because I think it just depends on what you consider challenging. To me, definitely their first, and then Weird Era Continued are much more challenging than this album. There's a lot of, I think with Deerhunter, it's like probably, what do you consider challenging? What do you consider accessible? To me, kind of ambience and noise is something that's more challenging. It's not something that I'm going to put on repeat listen. Noise with rhythm, which is what this album is a whole other thing. This is a very garage influenced album. To me, a lot of just straight up rock. And yeah, there's some noisy stuff going on in it, and it's aggressive, but I like that. If you like Stooges' raw power, you're gonna like a lot of this album. I don't really know like why they kind of went in this. There's, it's a little bit. I think there's a lot of people consider it. It's definitely lo-fi compared to Halcyon Digest, but it's not a lo-fi record. It's not recorded in a lo-fi way like early Guided by Voices or something like that. It was recorded on state-of-the-art studio, equipment, just because it embodies some lo-fi sounds. I think that was kind of more created in the studio and intentionally done. And honestly, because I think it's really their homage. This album is their homage to punk, really, and the DIY aesthetic. And there's just some great rockers on this one, and the title track in particular, which is what I'm going to play a sample of. But I mean, come on, look at that. I mean, come on. That's a rock band right there. Yeah, probably some glam influence on this one too. But I don't know. It's one of my favorites of theirs, and I don't find it challenging at all. So I don't know. I guess it just kind of depends on where you're coming from. But. Deerhunter's 7th album, Fading Frontier. Came out in 2015. Like every other album that I've shown you, black vinyl. But anyway, Fading Frontier. This is by far their poppiest album. Now, not from start to finish, because there are a couple of songs that get kind of into the weeds. But I'd say the first 5 tracks, yeah, I think the first 5 tracks are some of their poppiest songs, but in a good way. There's it's still very much an indie rock album. It's a lot more kind of straightforward indie rock. Yeah, I know some people hate that term, but you know what, guys? It's a term. It's been around since the 90s now, so, you know, it means something, or people wouldn't use it. But anyway, yeah, I think that, I don't know why they kind of, it's you know, now you've kind of seen a pattern that doesn't make sense, right? You have Halcyon Digest, which was immediately like their most accessible album, comes out in 2010, and then after that one, they put out Monomania, which goes in a completely different direction, and then they come back and they even top Halcyon Digest's accessibility for the majority of this album, I would say, with the exception of maybe 2 tracks on here. But yeah, this is their most hi-fi album for sure, and yeah, it's just some really good tunes. Yeah, I don't know where. Like, I would say there's you know, some new wave influence for the first time with a Deerhunter album. That's something that's new about this one. But by far, yeah, I mean, just I would say this one and their next one, which is their most recent, it's maybe kind of started. They're maybe starting to kind of hint that, you know, this is kind of like our pop stage or something. I don't know, but I say pop though, and I mean, come on, they're still an experimental band. It's, you know, it's not you know, Imagine Dragons or anything. So but anyway, Fading Frontier, I think the track that I was gonna play is the second single. I think I was going to play a clip of Breaker. Really good song.
Christ, or credit. What's the price? What's the edge? I'm alive. I don't credit the source. I just drive, and then the fog rolls in, and then they're blind. I've been driving all night on the back roads winding under the stars. Let us slowly dying. Oh no.
Alright, so now we've come full circle and back to the beginning and the most recent Deerhunter album. Why hasn't everything already disappeared? Came out in January of this year. Again, kind of, I would say it's kind of continuing on, sonically continuing on what Fading Frontier kind of started. The guitars aren't as prevalent in this album. At least not in the same way that they are on most other Deerhunter albums though. Piano is a lot more prevalent than it's ever been before. Some harpsichord thing, instrumentation like that. Some chamber pop influence for sure going on in here. And also, at least from what I can tell, and I haven't really read up a lot on this one, lyrically not as personal, not as much looking inward. To me, there seems to be a lot more material about other things, other events, and which is interesting and something that I want to look into a little bit more. Even though I've said that that this is a band that I don't really get into the lyrics on, it's just something that kind of stuck out to me about this album. But it's really good, and I can tell you it's not my favorite, but that doesn't mean it's not good. This band is a band that doesn't make a lot of missteps, and they don't put out albums once a year. They space them out 2 or 3 years. Now at their career, at this stage in their career. And they used to be a little bit more prolific early on because they not only were putting out Deerhunter albums, they were also putting out side project albums. And this is a really good album. And which one did I think I just decided to play a clip of Death in Midsummer. That brings us to the end of my little artist spotlight on Deerhunter. Those are all the albums by them that I own. It's all their albums except for the first one. It's also I should mention that they have some side projects. Bradford Cox has one in particular called Atlas Sound. I only have one of those albums. This album is called Parallax. It came out in 2011. And it's it's a lot in the same vein as Deerhunter stuff, but I would call this more of like a quote unquote bedroom project for him. It has almost a little bit more of a singer-songwriter feel to it. But yeah, it's a really good album, and I would, so if you like, once you get it, if any of you take on my recommendation here and get into Deerhunter, I would also check this out. And then Lockett Punt, the guitarist from Deerhunter, has his solo project called Lotus Plaza. This is one, when did he put this one out? I can't remember. I'm going to have to look. I can't even find a year. Isn't that crazy? But anyway, nonetheless, this is a really good album, and it's more experimental. And it's similar to some of Deerhunter's stuff, but when you listen to Deerhunter and you start to get into them and you start to realize that these are the songs that Lockett sings on, and these are the songs that Lockett probably influenced more, you'll start to tell a difference. And this album was very much his project. But yeah, I would strongly suggest this one too. And yeah, so I don't know. There you go. I hope this was an okay video. I feel like I kind of waned over time, and maybe started to kind of drag a little as I got further in. But nonetheless, I really strongly suggest this band. If none of you have heard of them, for those of you that haven't heard of them, I strongly suggest Deerhunter. They're a really, really great band. I've seen them live a couple times now, and man, there's something else live too. So, but yeah, I think I'm gonna close it out with another song, maybe Desire Lines, and yeah. Until next time, guys, we'll see you later. Okay.